Hey guys, welcome back to another RepPath podcast. I'm very excited today, guys, because I have a special guest that before I introduce her, I wanted to go over some quick housekeeping before the call. As always, guys, from this moment on, please submit any questions you have into the chat, and our podcast producer, James, will address these. He'll collect them, and then we'll go over these about halfway through the podcast today. And if anybody wants to see the recording of this podcast, please make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel, Unfiltered Medical Sales Coaching. Okay, so you could see that podcast and all the other podcasts that we've produced and all the other content that we come out with. So please make sure you subscribe to that. Today we're live on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. And we're also on every podcast platform pretty much, that's available. And today's topic we're going over is pay attention to your emotions, throughout the interview process.
Real quick, you forgot one thing, Joe. I'm here. Always. Chime in. The RepPath Academy is live.
The RepPath Academy is live, guys. So for any of you individuals out there that are looking to break into the medical sales industry, you must check out my website, reppath.com, as you can see at the bottom of the screen. So you could see real testimonials of applicants that we've helped place in this industry. We've helped place thousands of candidates throughout the country, continue to do so each week. So please make sure you check that out. We're going to go over a few more details at the end of the call. And that's about it. I forget anything else, James?
No, you got everything. There we go.
All right. Awesome. So today's podcast, guys, again, I know, I'm excited to have a lot of these guests, but this guest really is, I'm really excited to have her on the show. And today we're going to be talking about paying attention to your emotions through the interview process. And everyone always asks me when they sign up for any of my training programs, they sign up for the academy, they're always asking me, well, Joe, do you have a coach? Did you ever use one? And I'm proud to say that Amy Miller was my first life coach that I've worked with, and the best coach that I've ever worked with. And I truly mean that. Me and Amy, we connected about 3 years ago, and she really did make a huge impact on my life. This was a turning point, what really helped me really launch RepPath from just an idea to a real business. And Amy was a part of that to help me build this. So I want to introduce Amy. Please, Amy, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Joe. That means a lot. I really appreciate the warm welcome there. It's great to be here.
No, it's my pleasure. And I really do mean it, guys. So for any of you out there that think that coaches just can give out the test and they don't take it themselves, that's definitely not true. I have Amy as my coach. I know Amy has worked with individuals in her past, but Amy, if you could just give us a little bit of your background and where you come from and, where you are today.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to. And great to be here. My name is Amy Miller. My company is Troika Talent Acquisitions, Coaching and Consulting. And I actually started my career in medical sales for several years before I transitioned to industry recruiting, which I've now been doing for over a decade, a lot of sales and sales leadership roles and other roles across the commercial functions for healthcare. And along the way, professionals just started reaching out to me for guidance on how to make a pivot in their career, how to get the courage up and take the first step toward what it is they really wanted to do. And whether it was career direction change or advancing further in what they were already doing. And so that inspired me to start to expand and start offering coaching. And so I am a coach, and what that looks like for me today is working with professionals, sometimes one-on-one, helping them in navigating their career path, advancing, and then also working with leaders and teams for corporate coaching and interactive workshops, helping leaders to inspire their teams with the increasing motivation, helping to elevate performance and effective communication. And also just recently wanted to share that I completed my master's in organizational psychology. And so that has really helped to deepen my approach to leadership development. And then I have a couple books as well, Motivational Self-Development, Where's My Mustard, and Ready, Set, Recruit.
And it's funny you mentioned both those books. Again, my big fat body is blocking everything right now. But if you could see, where's my mustard? Sorry, I can't do the reverse.
Oh my goodness,
Where's
that's
my
awesome.
mustard? Here, and Ready Set Recruit is somewhere over back there.
Oh, that's awesome. Thanks, Joe.
Yeah, so it's really back there, guys. Trust me, Amy, it's there. So, but yeah, so thank you for that background, Amy. And again, we're talking about emotions, paying attention to your emotions during the interview. What does that really mean in the context of interviewing, of paying attention to your emotions?
I think that it's so important in the interview process, in career direction, and in life to listen to how you're really feeling. This is something that I start my day with this as part of my mindfulness practices, and I carry it through all day long. We want to be paying attention to how we're actually feeling. Sometimes, I think a lot of times in the interview process, just human nature, we want to be liked, we want to be wanted. And in the interview process and the job search, that means getting chosen, that means getting moved forward. But wait a minute, if we ask so I don't think we often take a step back and ask ourselves, how am I actually feeling? When I'm interacting with folks at the company, am I really liking and feeling energized in the culture? Am I feeling curious and excited about this role? Or am I feeling maybe some hesitation, some resistance? Is my energy sort of sinking? Your emotions are indicators that are guiding your direction. So if they're negative feeling emotions, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to fully base your decision on that, but it does likely mean that you need more information. So by paying attention to how you're actually feeling, where your energy is with the opportunity, when you're interacting with different folks in the interview process, that's going to help give you guidance on, yes, this is feeling like a good fit, I want to move forward, or you know what, maybe this is not the right fit and it might make more sense for me to prioritize my focus for other searches.
Well, I mean, that's such a great point too, because I know when I was interviewing, I was so focused on, what do they think of me? And I overlooked it. I didn't really think about my own emotions. And, so why do you think that is, why people either suppressed or overlooked their emotions during the preparation for the interview?
Mm-hmm. I think that it's something that a lot of us do in general. Sometimes, and we can use examples from our own life. You can be from your own past experiences, do your own little science experiment. I can think of one time before I made a pivotal shift in my career. I was feeling really frustrated, but I was overlooking the frustration, trying to push it aside because I was busy with my work and I wanted to keep staying focused on what I was doing so that I could get my work done. But the uncomfortable emotion became too big to ignore. So I finally just stopped and let myself feel the feeling, which led me to dig deeper. Okay, I'm feeling frustrated. Well, why are you feeling frustrated? Okay, well, this happened. Okay, well, why? And you just keep going deeper. And then that led to a new direction, which ultimately was going into business for myself. So I think that one reason we can work to try to ignore our emotions is because we're busy. We want to stay focused on moving forward, getting things done. But the other reason is it's uncomfortable. And one of the concepts that I like to coach on is to sit with a discomfort, because this is guiding you. Our uncomfortable emotions are showing up for a reason, and our good, happy feeling emotions. So these are indicators. But a lot of times I think human nature, instant gratification, we want to feel good. And at first it doesn't feel so good to sit with the uncomfortable emotion. So I think, we often ignore how we're feeling.
And what do you think are some of these common emotions that we get before the interviews?
Well, nervousness, of course, is one. I did an interview coaching workshop at a college yesterday, and we got to talk about a lot of this stuff. And there's fear and nervousness when it comes to interviewing, because one, we don't know what to expect. We may not think about it in terms of, okay, is my time investment here going to pay off? I don't really know, but that is the case. And so there can be some fear and nervousness. Fear, because we don't know if it's going to work out. We want to be wanted. Nervousness can come up, I think, for two different reasons. One, we have some stake in the game. We have our specific desired outcome goal. We know we want the opportunity, so we want to be moved forward. But then also sometimes when we're not prepared, then we can feel nervous as well. So I would say fear, nervousness, hopefully curiosity and excitement. These are positive emotions that will that are guiding you forward for a good reason.
Well, I mean, I think all of us have been there, not only during the interview process, but even some of us going back to our school days. Whenever you had a test that you didn't prepare for, you're like, oh shit, you're going to get nervous because you're not going to do well. You think you're not going to do well because you didn't prepare.
Mm-hmm.
So is there any other tips or techniques that you would use or that you can, offer to candidates that are always getting so overwhelmed with this nervousness, to kind of reduce that before they're actually, or during or before the interview, to calm down those nerves so they don't, let that affect their interviewing skills?
Absolutely. And thanks for that question. These tips can also help in any area in your life, and you will see improvement. Before I share them, I do want to add on one other reason that you might feel nervous for an interview. Because you're not really interested. If you're like me, I can't fake. I don't have a poker face unless I'm playing poker. I'm not good at faking my feelings, and this serves me. But it'll make me uncomfortable if I'm showing up for an interview that, if I'm being honest with myself, I don't really want. So this is again where you want to pay attention to your emotions so that you're investing your time where it makes the most sense. But some tools that can help you deal with the nerves in interviews and in other areas in your life: deep breathing. And breathing and meditation. So sorry if that sounds scary to you and that's not something that you want to do, but I highly, highly recommend it, because if you start your day with a clear, focused, present mind, then you're more likely to carry through with that mental state and mindset in the times during the day where you get a little bit stressed. And if meditation and deep breathing is new to you, I recommend focusing on not what you can't do. Well, I don't have 15 minutes in the morning. Okay, well, what do you have? Do you have 1 minute to do some deep breathing where you're focusing on your breath? If you're rushing out the door, okay, well, I can do some deep breathing as I'm commuting. Of course, we're not going to close our eyes if we're driving or walking, but focus on what you can do. And then the other another tip is what we're talking about right now, which is paying attention to your emotions. And this is actually it's not just me saying it, and you've probably heard other coaches and motivational speakers talk about it too, but it's actually based on research-based in psychology research. So if you may have heard of Dr. Jeffrey Schwartz, he's a research psychiatrist, and he has a process called 4 steps to change your brain, and you can rewire your brain. So things that really got under your skin, you can overcome these challenges. But the first step is identifying your emotions. So there's a lot of power in this. So pay attention to how you're feeling. And also keep the focus on you and approach the interview, which is natural to be nervous. So let yourself feel whatever feeling. You don't want to shut it down. But see if you can shift your perspective to approach the interview with curiosity. This is an opportunity for me to learn about the person that is interviewing me, to learn about the opportunity. And it's an opportunity for me to share a little bit about myself and my experiences and what I'm looking for. And that's fun.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And guys, I can attest, because I still remember and I still do the box breathing that you taught me years ago. And it really does. I mean, I was one of those people that was like, what is this crap? Like roll my eyes, I'm going to do it. I did say that the first time we did it. I'm sitting there, I'm like, this is so stupid, And then when I started doing it and realizing that it does work, it 100% works, guys. So, these techniques, they might seem silly at first, but trust me, when you start doing them, they really do calm you down and help you relax.
Mm-hmm.
It is a great tip. So, we'll get Amy's contact information at the end of the show so she can help you with many other areas. But that's something that I do remember, it's been 3 years and I still use it to today.
Awesome.
So,
I love that.
thank
Love to
you
hear
for
that.
So when it comes to this nervousness that we talk about, that we all, most of us feel to a certain extent, obviously some, at a higher level than others during the interview process. How do we distinguish that from deeper emotional feelings like the fear of rejection or something similar? How do we know what the difference is?
Yeah, great question. I think I recommend getting curious and going deeper. And these practices that we're talking about also are going to really help elevate your self-awareness so you better understand your feelings and why they're showing up, why you are showing up in a certain way or not showing up the way that you want to. And the better we understand ourselves, then the better we understand others. So then by raising your self-awareness, you're going to elevate your social awareness. And so how you distinguish whether it's just, nervousness because you have some stake in the game, or you're having some deeper challenges emotionally that are affecting your confidence, is by getting curious. So you identify the emotion and then make sure it's an emotion. So each morning I ask myself, okay, what are two emotions? We did this, Joe, when we were working together, that share two emotions that describe how you're feeling today. Sometimes we might say tired. Well, just keep in mind real quick, tired, for example, is a way to feel, but it's not truly an emotion. So if your emotion is I'm nervous, or okay, nervous. Well, go a little bit deeper there. And ask yourself, why are you nervous? And just keep going like several layers deeper. Just ask yourself why. Identify the emotion. Okay, well, why do you feel like that? And then ultimately you're going to get to the root cause. And once you identify the real emotion, that leads you to the real challenge, which then naturally the solution is going to present. So you just kind of have to sit with how you're feeling. And it doesn't have to take an hour of sitting with your feelings. It's typically 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, and then you'll figure out the deeper issue, which is beneficial because it's also going to guide your direction. You might discover, oh, you know what? I'm feeling nervous about this interview because I'm not prepared, because I wasn't motivated to prepare. Because if I'm being honest with myself, I don't really want this job. So just an example.
Well, that's something that, both of us do on the recruiting side, we deal with all the time, because this I had a couple of times this week, and I'm not going to hide my feelings. It pisses me off when candidates, for all you out there, if you go through the whole interview process, just be, transparent with your recruiter. So in this instance, like you're talking about, if they're going to be going through something and they really don't want to do this, right? What is your advice to those candidates? I mean, simply, what would you tell them?
Yeah, great question. And I actually went through this experience myself when I was living in Virginia and wasn't feeling very connected or happy there, and to my friends, to the place, to my job. And then something great happened. I lost my job. The company sold, and I was doing pharmaceutical sales. And so everybody got laid off. And I said, you know what? Perfect. I've been wanting to move to New York since I was little. And here I was 30 years old, I think, and making no strides to get here. I said, now's the time. But there was some fear there because I didn't have a job. I was still younger in my career and I didn't have a lot of savings. And the company connected with us with some resources, and recruiters were reaching out to me for Virginia-based opportunities. And these were good jobs. And so I thought, okay, what can I do here? I can lead with the fear and say, you know what, just in case I don't get a New York-based opportunity, because why would I? There are already candidates that live in New York that have contacts here that likely have more experience than I do. So let me just in case take these interviews. But I didn't do that. And I chose to lead with my first emotion, curiosity, and excitement around my idea to move to New York. And so I was honest with the recruiters as they were reaching out to me. And I said, I appreciate you reaching out. It sounds like a great opportunity, but I actually am looking to move to New York. Are you connected with any recruiters that are working on New York-based opportunities that you'd be open to connecting me with? Now, had I not been honest, I wouldn't have gotten that opportunity, and I would have been distracting my focus working toward getting an opportunity that I really didn't want. But instead, what happened was recruiters for New York-based opportunities started reaching out to me, and I got interviews. And 2 or 3 months later, I got a job and I moved to New York. And, there have been other opportunities that I've been approached with, and out of maybe my respect for the company or my relationship with the person at the company that reached out to me, I started to entertain the process. And I got what I'll call bad advice from people that I respected. Leaders that I work well with, maybe suggested, well, just go through the process. If you're younger in your career, somebody might tell you, well, get the interviewing experience. And that might be okay to a certain extent, but your time wherever you are in your career is valuable. And if you're distracting your focus towards something that you don't really want, you're not investing your time well, and you're much less likely to attract and align with the opportunity that you actually want. So I would be, listen to the recruiter who's sharing details about the opportunity, and be honest if it's not something that you want, and let them know, thank you for sharing. Doesn't sound like what I'm looking for. What I'm actually looking for is XYZ, because then they know what you want. And whenever a candidate shares with me, well, I'm really open, I'm open to relocate. I could live anywhere. Well, I can't really help you. We can't hit a target that we can't see. So be specific about what you want. And then this is how we'll know, and recruiters can better help you.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that about I can live anywhere. I actually, a few weeks ago, I had a candidate that told me, Joe, I'm open to South Florida, Hawaii, and Southern California. And I'm like, really? You know what else is? The entire planet, so you got to pick a lane here. Because again, like you said, if you keep it it's good to be open-minded and, open to different opportunities, but you got to give us somewhere to work, and a path to go down, because we can't just give you every opportunity in every state around the country. I mean, it just doesn't work that way. So
yeah, and it's not going to work for hiring managers either, because they need to know your why. If you're open to all these different places, get curious about where you really want to be, get honest about that. And that way you can prioritize your focus there.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Because then they don't feel that you're fully committed.
Mm-hmm.
They to me, that looks like it comes off as I'll take any job. It comes off a little desperate, to be honest.
Yeah.
I
agree.
But to get back to now, we were talking about pre-interview. Now during the interview, you got that nervousness like we all get. How do you regulate your emotions so it doesn't affect you during the interview? Because that's not so easy. Obviously you can't do box breathing during the interview. I think the hiring manager would be a little bugged out with that. But
that is hilarious. One of my coaching clients a while back asked me, okay, Amy, so I'm just supposed to start doing deep breathing, like in public? Well, not necessarily. You want to stay present. And so what does that mean? And how can you stay present? We hear people talk about this, but what does it mean and how do you do it? Well, of course it means in the moment, but how you do it is by keeping your focus fully as much as possible on the other person. Now, when it comes to what you want to keep the focus on you. But in the interview, just really fully listen. And I know this can be challenging because there's some fear there. I'll get this question a lot. Amy, what's a good interview question to ask? What do they want to hear with this specific for an answer for this kind of question? And I get this question from career up-and-comers and people that are leading teams. So anytime that you're in your head worried about how to answer a question, if it's okay to ask the question you really want to know the answer to, well, you're not present, and then there's no way to make a connection. So I recommend just fully listening. Do what you can to prepare during the interview. Do some deep breathing, research the company, have your questions ready to go. But then just really try to be present. And, sometimes we mess up. Like I feel really present and comfortable and connected today. So I was able to easily share my background. But there have been other rooms, and this is probably a signal that maybe that's not the right room for me, where I flubbed it all up and it didn't feel organic and it didn't feel comfortable. Why? Because I was in my head. I'm not present. And so, it's just practice for each of us, but really fully listen when the interviewer is talking, let them fully ask their question, even take a beat, maybe then clarify if you're not sure that you fully understand the question. And this way you're going to have a better connection. And then when you're staying present like this, you'll be able to better understand your emotions. Like if you have some resistance or a gray area, well, they didn't really answer my question. I'm still confused and not clear on this. And this will help you do a better job of getting your important questions answered. And if you feel like you need just a little cheater tip, if you feel like you need a beat because you don't know how to answer the question, you can take a deep breath. I mean, not a super slow audible one, but just, take a breath, take a beat, and you can even repeat the question. Sometimes that's all we need to give ourselves that extra moment to prepare the answer in our heads.
It's funny. I got family members that do that trick because I know
repeat the question.
They repeat the question or they go, what? And they're just giving themselves, it's a habit. It really is. It's funny.
Don't say what in the interview.
No, you don't want to say that in the interview. But you did, I had a thought, James, I had another movie reference, and Amy, on every show, James always makes fun of me with some of my movie references because
last couple have been good. They've been good.
Yeah. Some of them aren't the most masculine, manly references, but I don't care. They're great movies. But we're talking about staying present, right? And that's something that I would struggle with too during the interview because, like you said, you're well prepared. But now you start thinking of all your answers. You're thinking too much instead of just going with the flow and being more casual. Instead of saying, what is the perfect answer I can give and letting it be more natural. And my reference is James in Shawshank Redemption.
Classic. Great movie.
Okay. Amy, have you seen Shawshank?
Oh yeah. Love it. So good. Okay. Yeah.
Remember how Red, Morgan Freeman's character, keeps going up when he's going up for parole, he keeps getting rejected. And he's coming in there the first couple of times, like all nervous. And it's similar where you're nervous, you're trying to give them the right answer that they want to hear, right? And at the end, he's like kind of just like, whatever, I don't give a shit anymore. I've been here 40 years. Write whatever you want to write. And he gave like a more, obviously you don't want to give an attitude like he does in an interview, but it was him just being more himself and relaxed. And he winds up getting let out of jail. Now, again, I'm not trying to compare prison to interviewing, but it's all about just being, don't try to just come up with the perfect answer and think of what they want to say. And because it's going to show in your emotions, you're going to be nervous and come off that way, as opposed to being more natural and just going with the flow.
Yeah, it's not going to, that's such a great example and great movie. I love that. It's not going to, you're not going to come across as genuine. And the hiring manager, the interviewer, they may not recognize exactly why or exactly what it is, but they will have pause, they will have hesitation. And then they have to decide, well, do I want to invest more time here to uncover my hesitation, or do I want to just pass? So you always want to just, be yourself, be authentic. And hopefully, I'm just thinking back to different interviews that I've had. And one interview in particular, I had a good rapport with that interviewer. We already had interacted, actually not even a lot, but he took the right approach to the process, where ideally you want to have a 30-minute phone interview and then decide to invest more time. So pay attention to this as well, just real quick. If if a hiring manager is requesting that you do something that's going to require a lot of time, like maybe travel for an hour for a first interview, well, that might make you feel uneasy, and that's okay. So I didn't mean to get off track, but my point is that if the interviewer is doing a good job, if the company has their process buttoned up, then it'll likely be set up where you're going to feel more comfortable with each step in the interview process.
Well, so that's actually a great point, because this comes up a lot. Not every company, there's a lot of buttoned up companies out there that it's a well-oiled machine when it comes to their interview process. But, we deal with a lot of smaller companies, a lot of more, mom and pops out there in the medical sales, especially on the device side, where it's not, so organized. So how do you navigate that as a rep, as a candidate, to go into that? It might not be the most, there might be the wrong address, or I don't know, I'm making something up, or the wrong contact number, or something that can throw you off. I've been there before. I'm sure you have. How do you navigate that for, a candidate in that process?
Well, I don't mean to repeat myself, but pay attention to how that makes you feel, because that's going to be to guide you on, it's going to inform you on the culture of the company. And there's no right or wrong culture. We just have different personal preferences. So if I'm, recruiting for a company that maybe has a startup-like environment, maybe they're established and they're public, for example, but they still operate with that very entrepreneurial, things are changing as we go, and you're a part of building the process. Well, this kind of culture is going to attract a certain type of candidate. So a candidate that likes that can roll with the changes and is comfortable with that, then, it can be okay to have a process that's not completely buttoned up. But if that process is really not sitting right with you as you go through the process, well, then that's information. Okay, well, this probably isn't the right culture for me. And so you want to pay attention to how you are feeling in the culture, because you're not going to, and I've learned this the hard way, step into a culture and change the culture. They're not going to adapt to you. But what you have control over is your choices. So you can just use the information and either say, I need more information here to understand if this is what it's going to be like in the role, because it likely is. Or you can say, you know what, let me pull back and honor this resistance and be honest with myself. I don't feel good in that kind of culture. So let me see what else is out there and keep your options open.
Well, and again, that strikes close to home too, because I've been there where you're balancing, okay, sometimes mistakes happen, right, throughout the process. That's normal. But it is true to keep like a mental note of that. If that's making you uncomfortable, that they had the wrong directions, they put the wrong meeting place, or the manager shows up late, didn't call you ahead of time to confirm, or whatever it is, there are each little red flags that might not be a big deal. But when you start adding them up, and you brought up a great point, don't think you're going to change the culture, which is true. These things, you're probably not the first one to experience this. So it probably is not going to get any better. So this does weigh into your decision because you don't want to get in there and think, oh, everything will be great once I'm there. It's just these are just the interview mess ups. But once you're there, I'm sure they're a well-oiled machine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I just thought that, because that's something that does happen a lot.
Yeah.
But just to get back to during the interview, we talk about, again, all these emotions. Obviously, this is going to affect your body language and your tone. So
Mm-hmm.
how important does that play into, when you're trying to, I'm trying to phrase this the right way, what role does body language and tone play when you're expressing your emotions during the interview?
I'm thinking about, and we'll relate this back to the interview, but I'm thinking about just, everyday life if you can think back to a day where you were having kind of a crummy day and you weren't feeling very good on the inside, and you go outside and you're projecting this negative mindset, this negative emotional state, well, you probably get more grimaces than smiles. And then other days where you're feeling great, you're attracting positive energy. And so with the interview, I mean, you want to be yourself. If you're not, like I shared, I can't be fake. I had a terrible interview one time because I wasn't that interested. And then the questions it was a VP of sales was asking me, I felt like you want to be respectful, let the interviewer guide the interview, but I just had no energy around the questions, and they weren't helping him get from me the information that he needed. And I couldn't fake enthusiasm. And later he went and told, the other person who was in charge, who was running the process, that was like a terrible interview. Amy did really bad. And I knew that I didn't even try to close because I didn't earn the close. So if you can't fake it, don't fake it. And that's okay. It can save you from the wrong opportunity. But otherwise, a hiring manager is thinking that how you do anything is how you do everything. So if you show up, low energy, unengaged, not fully listening to the question being asked, not fully answering then, the right question, they're going to see this as, okay, well, this is how the individual is going to perform in the field or representing the company. So keep that in mind. And you do have actually a lot of control over your emotional state. If you're not energized around the opportunity, you're probably not going to perform well in that interview. And that's probably a gift. That setback, not moving forward, is a setup for the right to go in a different direction that's going to be better for you. So you do want to honor your emotions, but do something to, get yourself energized before you go into the interview so that you're feeling good and you're in a good energy. One thing that you can do is brainstorm your past achievements. That's going to get you feeling really good. You can also do that if you're having a down day. I've done this before and was feeling so much better, in no time. But by brainstorming some of your past achievements and practicing talking about them, this will help not only prepare you for the interview, but to show up in your best energy and more confident.
That's a great tip. Great tip. So
Thanks.
I think this is a good point. A good point in the podcast today. Though we'll pause, take a break. And James, do we have any questions from the crowd?
Yeah, we got a couple.
Awesome.
Let's see.
Please.
First one we got. What are the emotional mistakes that instantly turn off hiring managers?
Emotional mistakes? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Emotional mistakes. I don't know if we can get a little bit more specific on that question. I could try to answer it, but I just want to make sure I understand the question. So I don't know if there's an opportunity on the platform for whoever asked that to share if there's something more specific, like what you mean when you say emotional mistake.
I think the way I'm interpreting it is that if your emotions are taking over and kind of affecting your ability during the interview process, like you're so nervous that it's affecting how well you're presenting yourself during the process. Mm-hmm. That's the way I understand it.
Yeah, that's what I think you're talking about.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I can go with that. Defensiveness. This will come up 100%. Sometimes if a candidate does not have the desired or required experience, and so they might get defensive, and this is demonstrating a lack of self and social awareness. Where a strong candidate will, rather than taking the defense. I spoke with a candidate yesterday, and I was asking I kept having to rephrase what I was asking. And I think that happens sometimes when the candidate doesn't have the desired experience. But I always tell candidates, sometimes we check some of the boxes and not all, and it can still be a great fit. This happens more than maybe the candidate that checks all the boxes being a fit. So what you want to do is just be transparent, be genuine, be transparent, be confident, and answer the question truthfully and say, I actually don't have that experience, but here's what I do have, and here's why I'm interested in and how I feel like the skill set that I do have will translate. Maybe you get moved forward, maybe that particular experience is required, but at least now they better have a better understanding of the experience that you do bring, because they might have a different opportunity, maybe even at that same company. But if instead we're on the defense, like I was trying to better understand if this candidate had this specific experience, for example, yesterday, and he turned the question back on me and said, well, why is that required, or why is that needed? And that's not, I'm learning about your experience to assess if it makes sense to continue talking. So that lets me know whether or not the candidate has the experience that I need, the lack of the defensiveness and the lack of self and social awareness. I'm not going to reach back out to that candidate, even if I do have another opportunity down the line. And so the solution is to just be yourself. Trust that you have value to bring. It's okay if you don't have the desired experience there. Just be genuine and transparent. So I kind of went on a long time about one emotion, defensiveness.
But defensiveness, that definitely is very, very common with a lot of candidates out there. I mean, to Amy's point, just because you don't check off every box, most candidates do not check off every box. And like you said, you could have the candidate that checks off 10 out of 10, they get in the interview and they could be a disaster. Or the candidate that checks off 5 out of 10 can get in the interview and really just blow them away with their energy and excitement. And so you don't want to think just because, you don't want to get defensive ever, because also that's a reflection of how you present in a sales situation. When you're in an interview, they're looking at this as a sample sales call. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to get defensive with me as a hiring manager, what the hell are you going to do when you're in front of these doctors that give you objections? Are you going to say, you tell me my product's not good enough? Are you saying if we're too expensive and they're never going to
get out of my office.
Get out of here. Right. So it is a common emotion that everyone gets. And back to what Amy was saying, don't count yourself out or get defensive just because you're not checking off every box. You got to absorb those objections, got to handle the objections, because a lot of times it does come up during the objection part. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't mean that all of a sudden now you're out. But if you start getting defensive, it's hard to come back from that, because that's a red flag for a hiring manager.
Mm-hmm. I have another one I could share, or we could move on, whatever you.
No, please do. Please do.
Okay. Undervalued. This happens sometimes, where the way that the interviewer, could be the hiring manager, is conducting the conversation makes as a result, the candidate feels like they don't have an opportunity to highlight the value that they bring. Actually, that happened with me in the example that I shared earlier, but with other candidates that I've worked with, and interview coaching clients that I've worked with. And my advice is, okay, well, this is information letting you know what that company culture, what that leadership style is going to be like. So let me ask you, do you really want that opportunity? And there was some fear there. This one client that I'm thinking of, but I coached her on turning the opportunity down and being honest with herself. And of course, the fear is, well, what if I don't get another opportunity? But she did get another opportunity and was very happy with that opportunity. So if you're feeling, and I've had other candidates, another candidate that I worked with pulled himself out of the process because of the way the interview went. They wanted just contacts, and he had the contacts that they were requiring, but he didn't have. He said, I also have a lot more to offer than that, and I didn't get the opportunity to talk about that, and so he turned down that opportunity. And he later came on board with the same company, similar role, different hiring manager, different way that the interview process was guided, and he felt comfortable and confident. So if you're not feeling valued in the interview process, that's a reflection maybe on the leadership style, and you want to pay attention to that.
Yeah, it's a great point. Great point.
Okay, how do you actually tell the difference between nerves and your gut telling you something is off during an interview?
A great question. Stay present. Like all of these practices that we've been talking about, if you start to implement them little by little, a couple minutes each day, it'll help you identify your emotions and why they're there faster. but you want to just let yourself feel the uncomfortable feeling, and you want to get curious about it. I mean, that's really the answer that I have. Just you want to dig deeper and ask yourself, first identify the emotion, and then ask yourself, okay, but why do I feel this way? And then once you identify that, ask again, okay, but why do I feel that way? You ask yourself that question 5 or 7 times, you're going to uncover the answer, which is useful because then it informs your direction. Oh, I'm confused on this. I need more information. Oh, I'm actually not really interested in this opportunity. Or, you know what, I am interested in this opportunity, but I'm not equipped. I don't actually have the skill set. And we've all been there, myself included, where we just apply. That sounds good. The money's good. But if I have to actually do statistical research studies in this role every day, that's going to stress me out because I'm not good at that. So you want to, this is the value of understanding how you're feeling and why, so that it can guide your direction, because you do have value to bring. And whatever feels good, that's a direction. It may not be the immediate goal or even the end goal, but it's the direction. So this is the benefit of getting curious about why you're feeling the way that you are.
Yeah. And James, can you repeat that? Because I had a thought. Can you just repeat the question?
How do you actually tell the difference between nerves and your gut telling you something is off during an interview?
Yeah. And I think this goes back to what Amy was saying before in terms of preparation. So if you're getting into an interview and you're emotionally, you're a nervous wreck, more often than not, it is because you came unprepared. You didn't really do enough research on the company. You didn't really do enough research speaking to reps, learning more about that hiring manager, what the day-to-day is, because that for me calms. I'm not saying I'm going into I'm nervous for every interview. Everyone is. But that level, it brings it down. So then now, okay, is this nerves because I'm unprepared? Because usually once the interview starts, everything calms down. It's like being in a baseball game. Beforehand, you're nervous wreck. After the first pitch or the opening kickoff, everyone relax, and you settle down. And now if there's uncomfortableness through that, then that could be a better sign that this is a red flag of something I don't know if I'm comfortable with. It's not being blinded by nervousness for being unprepared. It's real nervousness like, I don't like the way this sounds. Maybe this isn't the right fit for me, or I didn't know we'd have to do that. I didn't know there'd be that much commitment. I thought I'd be in the OR. Now they're telling me I'm going to be, in clinics more, or whatever it is. I think it helps you distinguish that. So I guess my takeaway is the more you can prepare, guys, it's not going to eliminate all nervousness, but it helps reduce that, because if you're constantly a nervous wreck before every interview, that to me is a red flag. Are you really doing all you can to prepare? Mm-hmm. So that was it. Just had
that's an excellent tip, Joe. And the more prepared you are, then you can relax and be present during the interview.
Exactly.
You're not trying to remember what am I going to say? Yeah.
Yeah. And you don't want to be, the other tip I want to give too, you don't want to be robotic and rehearsed. Hiring managers, they interview a lot of people. They're not stupid. They've seen this before, guys. So it's like, you want to be prepared. You want to be on, again, that's good to review and practice a lot of the questions and have your answers. But when you're really prepared, that's the sign of being well prepared versus memorizing. That to me is the difference, where a lot of guys, they memorize answers. That's not preparing. That's not being well prepared. And that's going to be someone that's memorizing a lot of answers is going to be sitting there and not be present, like Amy's saying, thinking, what should I say next? When you're really prepared, it's like, ask me anything. I don't care. I'm ready.
And that's a good feeling. Yeah.
We got, what are some emotional, or are there some emotional cues interviewers send that candidates often miss?
Probably. Yeah. Yes. I'm thinking about when one thing that I really don't like, for lack of a better way to say that, is when candidates step on my questions and I'm conducting the interview, I'm leading the interview. So whoever's scheduled the interview, whoever's doing the interview, they are guiding the the process, working to get the specific information they need to learn if it makes sense to continue in the conversation and to invest more time. And so if that's happening when a candidate is stepping on the questions and not actively listening, if you're paying attention, the person who's interviewing is probably frustrated. Maybe because I will just take a beat and take a pause. I won't, if my question keeps getting interrupted, I'm not going to talk over the other person. So there might be some lag time. So, I mean, that's just one example, but I'm sure that there are other cues. Emotional, ask the question again. I'm sorry.
It was, are there some emotional cues interviewers send that candidates often miss?
Interviewers send. I mean, if the interviewer is getting frustrated, like, you should be able to tell. I mean, they're maybe not going to act frustrated, but like if they keep having to ask you the same question over and over, they're frustrated because it's making the conversation more challenging. So I think, the best thing that you could do to not miss any, in order to pick up on other emotional cues from whoever's interviewing, that's going to require having social awareness, understanding their position, their feelings, what their needs, what they're thinking. And to better understand their feelings, you want to start with better understanding your own. And these practices will help you to do that, because I didn't make up this quote. I think lots of people did. I don't know who first did, but we can only know others as deeply as we know ourselves. So if you have a high level of social self-awareness, you understand yourself well, you're going to pick up on cues. Like, I'm really strong in self-awareness because I've been implementing these practices for decades now. So I a lot of times understand people better than they understand themselves. Can be polarizing. That's not super popular. People don't want to be understood, but it's because I practice. It's not out of, I'm not trying to be manipulative. I just understand myself so deeply. So I understand others and their motives. So keep, working on getting to know yourself better, self-awareness, and you'll pick up on emotional indicators that others are sending.
I think that, like you were saying, I would just describe it as the get it factor. Like, some people you just get it, it's one of those things that you just got to be in those situations where that person, I don't know what it is about them, they rub me the wrong way. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times I'll have managers that say that to me. I don't know what they did, but something about them that they gave me, they rubbed me the wrong way during that interview, and if you're not picking up on something, because you could say something that could be a little off for someone, but if you're not picking up on their facial expressions, on like they can like wince their eyes, that could be something that, that's usually not a good sign. If they're constantly going like this and everything you're saying, if they're not nodding in agreement, I'm not saying they got to be there the whole time, like all excited, like, oh, that was a great answer every time. Because a lot of times they don't like to show their emotion, but little subtle cues like that, if you're not picking up on that, and if you don't, you have practice in life. I mean, a lot of times when you're speaking to people, are people always looking to like get out of the conversation? That's not a good sign that you'd be a good sales rep, because you got to pick up on those cues, with their facial expressions. Like you said, asking a question over again. Obviously if they have to repeat a question after you answered it, that's their nice way of saying you did not pay attention and answer the question I really asked. So I'm going to give you a second chance.
Yes.
So if you don't pick up on that, obviously the interview is not going well.
Yeah, really great point, Joe. And something that doctors are looking for, they want reps who get it. So when I was in medical sales, I was not the best I had to work really hard on the science piece, the clinical piece. I don't know how I did it because that's really difficult for me, but I did, and I hit and passed my quota. But I remember a doctor saying, Amy gets it. So, and that allowed me access into their office and to build that relationship. So again, hiring managers are looking for how you're presenting yourself in the interview process. That's how you're going to show up representing the company and in the field. Another cue or clue that or emotional, a sign indicator that a hiring manager might be showing the interview process, Joe, you made me think of this with what you just shared, is disinterest. Maybe they're not really interested. So your story is interesting. Each and every one of us has an interesting story to tell to the right audience. We don't all tune into every show, every book, every movie, and that's okay. So if you want to be yourself, share your genuine story, and if they're not interested, Good. They just saved you some time, redirected you, so that you can go in a different direction where you are going to be valued and bring value. And leaders are typically, if they're good leaders, they have a high self and social awareness, so they're able to regulate their emotions. So they're probably not going to be wincing their eyes at you. If it's a phone interview, they might be, but a lot of times in the interview, they're not going to show, physical expressions. So you have to pay attention to how the conversation is going.
Yeah, and that's such a good point, Amy. And that gets back to what we were saying before, and again, no shame here in giving free plugs about the RepPath Academy. This is one of the things we teach, but again,
Awesome.
it's about doing the research about that hiring manager before you step foot in that room. So if you're not calling reps before the interview and making it a non-negotiable that you got to get on the phone and actually, you can't just reach out to them once and be like, oh, Joe, they never got back to me, but I tried. No, you got to get on the phone with these guys and find out exactly what the drivers are of that hiring manager. Because if you're going to sit here and talk about the Yankees the whole time or talk about a show that just came out last week and the interviewer's 70 years old, odds are that's not going to resonate with that individual. But if you know more about this person, you can gear the conversation in a way that's more welcoming to that individual. And that's what a good sales rep does. I mean, that's what they're doing when they're with their doctors. They're not going to talk about procedures that this doctor doesn't care about doing, never has done once in his life. You're not going to talk about orthopedic procedures to a neurologist. So you got to know your audience and then gear the conversation in a way that's going to be attractive to them.
Great tip, Joe.
Thank you.
What are some good ways to stay emotionally present when interviews start to feel repetitive or transactional?
Pay attention to how you're feeling around that opportunity. Because I just giggle because it's the same, I don't mean to keep giving the same advice, but that's what it is. Because if you are excited about that opportunity, you're going to have energy around it. But yes, I understand at the same time, when we get told no and we're not having progress in the interview process, it can get frustrating. So that comes back to knowing your value. I was thinking about this a lot today and yesterday, because I got an opportunity to do the career coaching workshop at a college yesterday. And this is my maybe fourth time coming back to the college. And I was thinking about, well, my lady that I partner with at the college, she sees value in me. And that feels really good. So she keeps bringing me back. But who had to see value in me first? I did. So you have to know that you have value. That's the most important thing. You have value to bring, and keep the focus on what lights you up, because that's the direction where you have the value, and that is purpose. And that's going to keep you going when the going gets tough, whether that's in your own business that you start, whether that's in the interview process. But I get excited every day about the value that I have to bring. And then expanding my business in this way or continuing my business in this way. I'm the one that holds that excitement and generates it every day. And yeah, so that'll keep you going, just that purpose. And, Joe mentioned going through some challenges at the start of the podcast, I think, when we were talking, and I definitely had my struggles. If you, this is not a book plug, but if you read my book, I talk about it openly in the book. And this is part of the reason that my past struggles with anxiety, with challenging emotional struggles, are what equipped me to help in the way that I help now. But what got me through that was purpose, knowing that I had something to offer. I didn't know where, I didn't know which direction. So conjuring up, knowing that you have value, that's going to help keep you going when the going gets tough, and help regulate your emotions during challenging interview processes.
Yeah, I mean, that is so important, Amy, because if for all of you out there, guys, you have to believe, not just say it. You got to really believe in yourself. I am the best candidate for this company. You shouldn't be interviewing if you don't think you're the best for that role. You have to have that feeling, because it's the same. And again, I'm always going to talk about this because this is real. It's the same as when you're after you get the job and then sell your product, you got to believe in that product that you're selling too. So if you don't feel like you're selling a product of any value, whether it's you during the interview process or it's the product you're actually selling a doctor, then it's not gonna work out well. If you feel like you're selling garbage, nobody's gonna buy from you because they're not gonna feel that. And it's the same in the interview process. If you don't feel that strongly that you're the best and have the justification of why you're the best too, then they're not going to care because you don't even believe in yourself. So why would they believe in you?
Yeah. And just to add on to that, we mentioned a little further back about brainstorming your achievements. The STAR method, Joe probably talks about that in RepPath Academy, and I'm sure you all are familiar, but a situation, task, action, result. Use the STAR method from your past achievements. Well, here was a situation. This was the goal. Here's what I did. Because hiring managers want to know not just what you've done, but how you got there. But this is a great way to elevate your mindset going into the interview process, and the interview is that's the place to brag about yourself and your achievements, and that's going to keep you going. And this makes it fun to actually prepare for interviews. And then be, prepared to talk about it. But actually the process of doing the interview prep can be a lot of fun when you think about, this is an opportunity for me to think about my past achievements. And that's going to elevate your confidence and your belief in yourself even more.
Perfect. I think we have time for one more, James.
All right, one more.
Yeah.
I have an interview with a company that I'm really excited for. How do I express enthusiasm without coming across as desperate?
Well, they're not the same thing at all. Enthusiasm is genuine. Desperate is fear-based. And so if you, as you're getting excited, that's the first emotion. I'm super excited about this opportunity. Then fear, and that's your intuition, always the first emotion. Then fear creeps in. Well, what if I don't get it? Shift your focus. You have the power to choose your focus. So focus back on the excitement. What if I do get it? When I was coming to New York for interviews, I was excited and then I got scared. What if I don't get it? But I decided then, and this was 15 years ago, and I've been practicing this habit. I call it a success habit now ever since, which is observe and choose. Observe the fear. I don't want to come across desperate. What if I don't get this? I really want this opportunity. What if I do get it? Why wouldn't I get it? What if everything works out just the way that I want? Whatever you focus on grows. So choose to focus back on the positive and then lead with that emotion. And it's a process. Do it over and over and over again. Every time the fear comes in, always acknowledge, all right, I see you there. I got you, but I got this. I'm going to focus back on what excites me.
Awesome. Well said.
Thank you. Great question.
That was spot on. That's
all.
Yeah,
thank you, James. I appreciate that. And Amy, please, number one, thank you again for this. This has been amazing. But before we go, please let the audience know how they can contact you. What's the best way to reach out, and, please provide whatever services that you want to let them know that you can provide for them.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Joe, and thank you, James. This has been so much fun. So I really enjoyed the time and super honored to be here. And thank all of the listeners. Great questions. That participation and engagement is great. So I love to see that. And yes, happy to connect and answer any questions. I have, of course, I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me there. I'm active on YouTube as well. So LinkedIn and YouTube are the best. My social is at Amy Lee Miller Coaching on Instagram too. But I would say LinkedIn or YouTube. And then I have a website as well, and email works as well. So it's amy@amyleemiller.com, website amyleemiller.com.
Perfect. And again, guys, for any of you that are looking to get into medical sales, please, please, please join the RepPath Academy. You could schedule an appointment by either booking it through our website, reppath.com, or you can go, and contact me, send me a DM on LinkedIn, and we could schedule an intro call so we could walk through the process. But again, we're new students every week. New students are getting placed every week. And for any of you candidates out there that are lobby members, please make sure that when you contact me, to give the promo code Licata, that's Licata. Okay, so that'll enable you for additional discounts. So again, Amy, thank you so much. This was a pleasure. We definitely want to have you back. So hopefully you can do that, for us at some time, and would love to, again, to join you again, have you join us again for another podcast.
I would love that. Thanks so much, Joe.
Thank you. Thank you, James. And thank you all for listening. Again, we're here every Monday and Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern. So If I don't see any or talk to you any guys this weekend, hopefully we'll be speaking again on Monday. Take care, guys.